Marcus Reed looked out at the burning sky. New Haven, the last human colony, was dying. He could see the fires spreading across the city like angry red rivers. The Zelthari ships hung above the buildings like metal monsters, releasing beams of energy that tore through everything below. The colony's defense shields were failing. Marcus knew it was over. He stood in the underground bunker with 300 other people. Soldiers, scientists, children, and families all crowded together in fear. The walls shook with each explosion from above. Dust fell from the ceiling in a constant rain. Everyone was quiet, waiting for the end to come. Some people prayed. Others held their loved ones tightly. Marcus felt the weight of command pressing down on him. As the colony's military commander, he had promised to protect them. But there was no way to protect anyone now. The Zelthari had arrived 6 months ago. They came from beyond the stars, demanding surrender. Humanity refused. They had built New Haven over 30 years. Families had been born here. Children had grown up under alien skies. This was home. So they fought. They fought with every weapon they had. But the Zelthari were too strong. Their technology was centuries beyond what humans possessed. One by one, the human settlements fell. Outposts were destroyed. Military bases were abandoned. And now, only New Haven remained. Eleanor Hartwick, a tall woman with gray streaks in her dark hair, approached Marcus in the bunker. She was the head scientist at the colony, and her face showed the same exhaustion that everyone felt. "The power systems are failing," she told him quietly. "We have maybe 1 hour before life support shuts down completely. We can't survive down here without it." Marcus nodded slowly. He had known this moment was coming. "We surrender," he said. The words felt like acid in his mouth. "Send out the white signal. Tell them we give up." Within 30 minutes, the bunker doors opened. Zelthari soldiers entered the underground shelter. They were tall creatures made of crystalline material that caught the light strangely. Their bodies seemed to glow from within with colors that did not exist in nature. They had no faces as humans understood them. Instead, smooth surfaces reflected everything around them. They made sounds like wind chimes when they communicated, clicks and musical notes that hurt the human ear. The soldiers began separating people into groups. Families were torn apart. Children cried for their parents. Soldiers tried to comfort the frightened colonists, but there was nothing anyone could do. The Zelthari did not respond to pleas or tears. They simply sorted humans like items in a warehouse, directing each group toward waiting transport ships. Marcus was kept separate from the others. He was taken to a large crystalline vessel that hung above the ruined city. As he was led through its corridors, he saw things that seemed impossible. The walls were transparent in some places, showing the mechanics of the ship: flowing liquids, pulsing lights, energy moving like living things. The air felt wrong here. It was too clean, too cold, and carried a faint metallic taste. A guard pushed Marcus into a holding cell. It was small and empty. The walls glowed with soft blue light. There was no furniture, no toilet, no water. Just a small human inside a box of alien light. Marcus sat down on the cold floor and tried to understand what was happening to him. Hours passed. Maybe days. Time felt strange in the cell. There were no windows and no way to know if it was day or night. Every few hours, the door would open and guards would leave food and water. The food was strange and did not taste like anything from Earth. Marcus ate it anyway because he was hungry. On the third day, or what he thought was the third day, Eleanor appeared in the adjacent cell. Marcus could see her through a transparent barrier. She looked tired and scared. They could not speak through the wall, but they communicated with eyes and hand signals. Eleanor made a motion suggesting she was okay. Marcus nodded, relieved to see at least one familiar face. Other prisoners appeared over time. Captain James Torrance, the colony's lead pilot, was placed in another cell. A young woman named Rebecca, who worked in communications, was brought in. An older man called Dr. Henry Morris, the colony's doctor, was also imprisoned. Slowly, the cells around Marcus filled with people from New Haven. He recognized all of them. These were people he had known his entire life on the colony. Marcus tried to listen to conversations through the barriers. He heard fragments of information shared between prisoners. The soldiers had mentioned something repeatedly, a phrase in their musical language that sounded like "Founder's Blood" or something similar. Marcus did not understand what it meant. He asked Eleanor about it, but she had heard the same thing and knew nothing more. The ship moved through space. Marcus could feel it, a gentle vibration that never stopped. He wondered where they were being taken. Were they going to another planet? To the Zelthari homeworld? Would they be executed? Put to work in mines? Used as experiment subjects? One night, or what seemed like night, the guards came to Marcus's cell. One of them pointed at him. The crystalline being made a sound that somehow Marcus understood meant come. Marcus stood and followed. He was led through corridors he had not seen before. The ship seemed endless, built on a scale that humans could barely comprehend. They arrived at a large chamber. Other guards were present. Important-looking Zelthari stood at the far end, their crystalline bodies arranged in patterns that suggested organization and rank. At the center of the chamber stood something different. A figure that was older than the others, more complex in its crystal structure. It seemed to glow with its own light. Marcus felt fear and curiosity at the same time. Something important was about to happen. He did not know what, but he could feel it in the air around him. The older crystalline being looked at him. And then it spoke, not in musical sounds but directly into his mind, in words he somehow understood perfectly. "He carries the Founder's blood," it said. Marcus stood frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. He had no idea what those words meant. But he knew somehow that his life had just changed forever. Marcus Reed stood in the center of the vast chamber, unable to move. The crystalline being before him was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 30 feet tall, and its body was made of countless layers of clear and colored crystal that seemed to shift and change. Inside the crystal, lights moved and danced like living things. The being was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The voice came again, not through his ears but directly into his mind. It was ancient and powerful, and it carried the weight of countless years. "Do not be afraid, Marcus Reed," the oracle said. "I am Shalora, the oracle of the Zelthari. I have guided our people for thousands of years. I have seen the rise and fall of civilizations. I have watched stars die and new ones be born. And I have been waiting for someone like you." Marcus tried to speak, but his throat was dry. "What do you want from me?" he finally managed to say. "I want you to understand," Shalora replied. "I want you to know the truth that our people have forgotten." The oracle raised one of her crystalline appendages, and suddenly the chamber filled with images. They were not pictures on screens but visions that appeared in the air itself. Marcus saw vast spaceships moving between stars. He saw the birth of the Zelthari civilization. He saw beings made of crystal and light building cities that reached into the clouds. He saw scientists studying strange technologies. He saw artists creating beauty that made his heart ache. Then the visions changed. The cities became dark. The light faded. The Zelthari stopped growing and started repeating the same patterns again and again. Centuries passed in the visions. The people became trapped in endless routines. They built more weapons. They conquered weaker species. They forgot why they were doing these things. They simply continued because they always had. "This is what we became," Shalora said sadly. "We were once great. We were once filled with curiosity and wonder. We created and explored and discovered. But we became old. We became afraid of change. And we forgot our purpose." "What does this have to do with me?" Marcus asked. "Everything," the oracle replied. "Millions of years ago, before the Zelthari civilization was even born, there was another species. A species called humanity. But not your humanity, Marcus Reed. An ancient humanity. A humanity that achieved something incredible. They became like gods. They gained the power to shape reality itself. They learned to move between dimensions. They learned to live forever if they wished. The visions showed this ancient humanity. They were tall and beautiful, with skin that glowed with inner light. They had built structures that defied understanding. They had power that seemed limitless. But with all this power," Shalora continued, "they discovered something. They discovered that perfection is a prison. That when everything is possible and everything is easy, nothing matters anymore. They realized that struggle and growth and the journey of discovery were more valuable than all the power in the universe." Marcus listened, his mind trying to process what he was hearing. "So they made a choice," the oracle said. "They chose to scatter themselves across multiple realities. They chose to reset their own abilities. They chose to become limited again so that they could grow. And before they did this, they planted seeds. They created new species and left them to develop on their own. One of those species was the Zelthari. And one species that survived in your own time was yours, Marcus Reed. Humanity. You're saying humans created the Zelthari?" Marcus could barely comprehend the words. "Not created," Shalora corrected gently. "Seeded. Inspired. Given the spark of potential. The founders left us the ability to evolve, to grow, to discover our own path. But we failed them, Marcus. We became stagnant. We forgot the gift they gave us." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then suddenly the doors burst open. Military commanders entered, their crystalline forms flashing with angry colors. The being at the front, a large Zelthari with sharp edges and a commanding presence, stepped forward. His name was General Vexthor, and his voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "This is madness," Vexthor shouted. "The founders are myths, stories told to children. You are filling this human's head with lies, Oracle." "Am I?" Shalora asked calmly. She turned her crystalline gaze toward Marcus. "Show them what I see," she commanded gently. A beam of light emerged from the oracle's body and touched Marcus. Suddenly the guards and military commanders cried out. They could see it now. They could see the genetic markers in Marcus's body. They could see the ancient code written into his very cells. The code that matched the ancient records of the founders. The code that had been passed down through thousands of generations of humans, lying dormant, waiting. Marcus carried within him the genetic signature of the founders. He was a direct descendant of the ancient beings who had seeded the galaxy with life and potential. General Vexthor's body flashed with furious red light. "This is a threat," he declared. "This human is dangerous. It carries the power of the founders. We must destroy it before it corrupts our entire civilization." "No," Shalora said firmly. "That will not happen." "Why not?" Vexthor demanded. "Because," the oracle replied, "our oldest records, the records you have chosen to ignore, state clearly that the founders left a curse. If any of their direct bloodline is harmed, catastrophe will follow. Entire civilizations will collapse. Dimensions will tear apart. The very fabric of reality will unravel. I will not bring such destruction upon our people, General." Vexthor stepped back, his form shaking with rage. But he did not move against Marcus. Instead, he turned and stormed from the chamber, followed by his commanders. Their anger filled the air like a storm cloud. Shalora turned her full attention back to Marcus. "You see now, young human?" she asked. "You are not a prisoner or a slave. You are something far more important. You are a bridge between two worlds. Between what was and what could be. Between the stagnant present and a future full of possibility." Marcus felt the weight of destiny settle upon his shoulders. Everything had changed in a moment. He was no longer just a man. He was something else entirely. And he had no idea what to do with this terrible, wonderful knowledge. The cell was dark and cold. Marcus sat alone on the floor, his back against the wall, trying to understand everything the oracle had told him. The founders' blood. Ancient humanity. The curse. General Vexthor's anger. His mind could not stop spinning with questions. He did not know how much time had passed since the revelation. The guards had taken him back to his cell without explanation. No one came to see him. No one brought food. He was beginning to think they had abandoned him to die alone in this small crystalline prison. Then late one night, a soft chiming sound woke him. Marcus opened his eyes and saw something impossible. A section of the wall was becoming transparent. He could see through it now into the corridor beyond. And standing there, looking nervous and frightened, was a young Zelthari female. Her crystalline body was smaller and more delicate than the soldiers Marcus had seen. Her form was beautiful, with curves and gentle edges rather than sharp angles. She glowed with soft violet light instead of the harsh white of the military guards. And her eyes, if they could be called eyes, held something Marcus recognized. Kindness, fear, compassion. "Quickly," she whispered, her voice somehow traveling through the transparent wall. "We do not have much time." Marcus stood up slowly. "Who are you?" "My name is Lyria," the female said. "I am a scientist, and I am not alone. There are many of us who believe the oracle is right. Many of us who want to help you." "Help me? Why would you help me? I am your enemy. I am human." Lyria's light flickered with what might have been sadness. "You are not our enemy, Marcus Reed. You might be our salvation. But first you must come with me. General Vexthor has convinced the military council to execute all human prisoners tomorrow. You will die unless we get you out of here now." Marcus's heart raced. Eleanor, Captain Torrance, Rebecca, Dr. Morris, all the people from New Haven. They were going to be executed tomorrow. He had to move. He had to act. "How do we escape?" he asked. Lyria did not answer directly. Instead, she deactivated the force field that held Marcus in his cell. The wall dissolved like mist. Marcus stepped through into the corridor. It was empty and dimly lit. Lyria led him quickly through passages he had never seen before. They moved through the ship like ghosts, avoiding guards and surveillance systems. They came to a small chamber that Lyria called a transit pod. Inside, Marcus found another Zelthari waiting. This one was larger and more angular than Lyria. His form was colored in deep blue with hints of silver. His presence commanded attention and respect. "This is Kale," Lyria said. "He is a military strategist. Or he was until he began to question everything he was taught." Kale's crystalline body flashed with acknowledgement. "We do not have time for long introductions," he said in a voice that was deeper and more serious than Lyria's. "But you should know this, human. There are thousands of us. Scientists, artists, philosophers, teachers. We have watched our civilization die for centuries. We have watched it become nothing but weapons and conquest and empty rituals. We remember what the Oracle told you. We remember the old teachings. We have been waiting for someone like you." "Waiting for what?" Marcus asked. "The archive," Kale said. "Deep beneath the surface of our homeworld lies a vault created by the founders themselves. It contains all their knowledge, all their wisdom, all their technology. For 10,000 years the military has kept it forbidden. They have convinced everyone that opening it would be dangerous. But it is not dangerous, Marcus Reed. It is the only thing that can save us." "You want me to help you reach this archive?" Marcus asked. "Not just reach it," Lyria said. "We want you to help us open it. The founders left safeguards, protections. But those protections recognize founder bloodline. They will respond to you. They will let you in where no one else could enter." Kale stepped closer. "But first we must free your people. We must gather the humans being held on this ship and the 3 other vessels nearby. Then we must make our escape. General Vexthor is searching for you now. When he discovers you are gone, he will order the execution of all human prisoners immediately. We must be fast." Over the next few hours, Lyria and Kale led Marcus through a carefully planned operation. They moved through the ship using secret passages that had been forgotten by everyone except the oldest Zelthari. They bypassed security systems using codes that Kale had memorized from ancient records. And slowly, carefully they began freeing the human prisoners. Eleanor was the first to see Marcus. When he appeared at her cell, her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you were dead," she said. "Not yet," Marcus replied. "But we need to move. Now." They gathered the prisoners in groups. Lyria explained the escape plan using hand signals and quiet whispers. The humans were confused and frightened, but they trusted Marcus. They followed him through the corridors of the alien ship like a stream of water flowing downhill. Captain Torrance helped Marcus organize the people. Dr. Morris checked on the injured and the sick. Rebecca made sure the children stayed quiet and calm. It was the kind of organization that could only come from people who had worked together for years. When they reached the docking bay, 5 small transport vessels waited. Kale had arranged for these ships to be prepared in advance. They were not as large as the military warships, but they were fast. More importantly, they had coordinates already programmed into their systems. Coordinates leading away from the Zelthari homeworld. "You cannot stay here," Kale told Marcus as the humans began boarding the transports. "When we reach our homeworld you will be in great danger. Vexthor and his followers will hunt you. But Lyria and I have allies. We have scientists and philosophers who will protect you. We have places where you can hide." "How long can we hide?" Marcus asked. "Not long," Lyria admitted. "But long enough to reach the archive. And if we can reach the archive and open it, if we can show our people what the founders left behind, then everything will change. Vexthor's power will crumble. The old ways will be questioned. And our civilization might finally have a chance to become what it was always meant to be." The last humans boarded the transport vessels. The doors began to seal. Through the windows, Marcus could see the military ships beginning to move. They were pursuing. Time was running out. "Go," Kale commanded. "We will delay them as long as we can. Reach the archive, Marcus Reed. Change our world." The transports lifted off and raced toward the stars. Behind them, the Zelthari military ships followed, but they were already too far behind. Marcus looked at Eleanor, at the frightened faces of his people, and he knew that everything was about to change. The transport ships landed on the Zelthari homeworld under cover of darkness. Lyria guided them to a hidden location in the mountains, far away from the major cities and military installations. The landscape was alien and beautiful. Crystal formations rose from the ground like frozen waterfalls. The sky was a deep purple color, and 3 moons hung in the heavens like watchful eyes. Marcus and Eleanor stood at the entrance to a massive cave system. Kale appeared from the shadows, his blue crystalline form glowing softly in the dim light. Behind him came dozens of other Zelthari. Scientists, philosophers, artists, and teachers. They all looked at Marcus with a mixture of hope and fear. "The archive is below," Kale said, pointing downward. It has been sealed for 10,000 years. No one has entered since the last of the founders departed this world. But the time has come to open it again. They descended into the earth. The passage went down and down, deeper than seemed possible. The air became cooler and cleaner. Strange lights appeared on the walls, ancient systems still functioning after countless millennia. Eleanor walked beside Marcus, her eyes wide with wonder. "This technology," she whispered. "It is far beyond anything we have ever created. It is far beyond what even the Zelthari have achieved." After hours of walking they reached the archive. It was a massive chamber, larger than any building Marcus had ever seen. The walls were covered with crystalline structures that held information. Holograms flickered in the air, showing star charts and mathematical equations. The floor was smooth and seemed to glow from within. At the center of the chamber stood a door made of pure light. Lyria touched Marcus's shoulder gently. "The door will not open for us. It will only open for one with founder blood. You must try." Marcus approached the door slowly. His heart was pounding. He did not know what to expect. He placed his hand against the light and suddenly, everything changed. The door opened like a flower blooming, revealing chambers beyond. And with that opening came a flood of knowledge. Marcus could see the records. They were everywhere. In crystalline storage units. In holographic displays. In ancient texts written in languages he somehow understood. Eleanor rushed past him into the archive, her scientific mind desperate to examine everything. "This is impossible," she breathed. "This is absolutely impossible." The holographic displays showed the history of the founders. Humans from millions of years ago who had achieved transcendence. They showed great civilizations that had spread across countless worlds. They showed technology that could reshape matter itself. They showed beings of pure energy who had learned to travel between dimensions. But then the images changed. The founders realized something terrible. They were powerful, but they were also dying. Not from disease or age, but from boredom. From emptiness. When you can do anything, when you can have anything, when you can live forever, life loses meaning. The great civilizations were crumbling not from external threats but from internal collapse. The founders were losing themselves. They had to change, Eleanor said, reading the ancient texts. They had to find a way to make life matter again. The records showed the decision the founders made. They would scatter themselves across multiple realities. They would give up their power. They would become limited again. They would seed new species with potential and leave them to develop on their own. They would become gardeners instead of gods. Marcus found records specifically about humanity's role in this plan. The founders had left genetic markers in their descendants. Instructions written into DNA. Triggers that would activate if someone with strong enough founder bloodline encountered certain technology or received certain knowledge. Marcus realized that the revelation from the Oracle had been one of these triggers. His ability to open the archive had been another. "They were planning for this," Eleanor said, understanding the implications. "Millions of years ago they planned for one of their descendants to find this place. They planned for us to reclaim this knowledge." But then alarms began to sound. The cave system echoed with warning signals. Kale's voice came through a communication device, urgent and frightened. "Vexthor has found us. The military is attacking. They are surrounding the mountain. We cannot hold them off for long." Marcus ran to the entrance of the archive. Through the transparent sections of the cave, he could see Zelthari military ships descending from the sky. Energy weapons were firing at the mountain. Rocks were falling. The ground was shaking. "We have to get out of here," he told Eleanor. But Eleanor grabbed his arm. "No. We cannot leave. Not yet. We have to release this information. We have to show everyone what is in this archive. That is the only way to stop Vexthor." Marcus understood immediately. The archive contained knowledge that would change Zelthari society forever. If people knew the truth about their origins, about the founders, about their true potential, the military could not maintain power. The old structures would collapse. He turned to Kale. "The archive has broadcast systems. Ancient ones, but they should still function. Can you help me activate them?" Kale's crystalline form flashed with understanding. He rushed to an ancient control panel and began working with surprising skill. His fingers moved across interfaces that seemed to respond to his touch despite being dormant for millennia. "The system is coming online," Kale said. "But we must move quickly. The military is breaking through the outer defenses." Marcus stood in the center of the archive and thought about what he wanted to say. He thought about Eleanor and the other humans. He thought about Lyria and Kale and all the Zelthari who believed in a better future. He thought about the Oracle and the promise of change. "Broadcast everything," he commanded. "All the records. All the history. All the truth. Kale activated the system. Across the entire Zelthari civilization, signals were sent. Every communication device, every broadcasting station, every screen in every city suddenly showed the truth. The history of the founders. The reality of Zelthari origins. The knowledge that had been hidden for 10,000 years. In cities across the world, Zelthari stopped what they were doing and listened. Scientists and soldiers, artists and workers, all of them received the revelation at once. Millions of them, all at the same moment, learning that everything they had been taught was incomplete. That their civilization had been built on lies and fear and control. General Vexthor's attack hesitated. His soldiers received the broadcast too. Some of them stopped fighting. Some of them turned away. The military hierarchy that had ruled for so long was fracturing from within. Marcus turned to Eleanor as the archive's walls trembled around them. "It's done," he said. "The truth is out now. There is no way to hide it anymore." Eleanor smiled despite the danger surrounding them. "Now," she said, "everything changes." The dust settled slowly. The military attack on the archive had stopped. General Vexthor's forces had withdrawn, not because they were defeated, but because their own soldiers refused to continue fighting. The broadcast had changed everything. Millions of Zelthari had learned the truth, and the old order could not survive when the foundation of lies had been exposed. Kale emerged from the archive's control room, his blue crystalline form glowing with exhaustion. "The systems are shutting down now," he said to Marcus. "We have transmitted enough data to reach every corner of our civilization. There is no way to stop what has been started." Eleanor walked through the archive chambers, documenting everything with a handheld device. She had tears streaming down her face, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of wonder. "This knowledge," she said softly, "this could change humanity too. When we bring this information back to Earth, it will transform everything we know about ourselves." Over the following weeks, the transformation began. The Zelthari Council met to discuss what should happen next. Some military commanders like Vexthor resisted the change. But their voices grew quieter as more and more Zelthari demanded answers. Demanded truth. Demanded a new way forward. The Oracle, Shalora, called for a gathering of all Zelthari leaders. It was held in a vast amphitheater carved from crystal, a place that had been built thousands of years ago for important decisions. Hundreds of Zelthari from every field and profession attended. Scientists and philosophers stood beside military officers and government officials. Marcus was asked to speak. He stood before all these alien beings, human among countless crystalline forms, and told them what he believed. He spoke about growth and change. He spoke about how civilizations could become trapped by their own success. He spoke about the courage it took to admit mistakes and start again. "Your founders," Marcus said, "did not create you to be conquerors. They created you to be explorers, to be thinkers, to be artists and dreamers. They wanted you to discover your own path. But somewhere you lost that path. You became afraid of change. You became trapped by tradition. Now you have a chance to remember who you really are." The speech moved many Zelthari to tears, their crystalline forms flickering with emotional light. Even Vexthor listened, though his expression remained hard and unchanging. The oracle stood and spoke. Her voice filled the entire amphitheater, powerful and ancient. "I have guided our people for thousands of years," Shalora said. "I have watched us decline and stagnate. I believed it was my burden to carry alone. But I was wrong. I should have spoken sooner. I should have fought harder to preserve the memory of what we once were. This human has shown me that change is not something to fear. It is something to embrace." She turned her massive crystalline form toward Marcus. "This human, descendant of the founders, has given us a gift greater than any technology. He has given us permission to become ourselves again." After the gathering, the real work began. The military structure of Zelthari society was reformed. Instead of a single commanding general, a council was created. Representatives from science, art, philosophy, and trade sat alongside military officers. Power was shared instead of concentrated in one person's hands. It was messy and complicated, but it was change. Lyria led a team of scientists and historians who began studying the archive in detail. They invited Eleanor and other human scientists to join them. For the first time, human and Zelthari worked side by side in the pursuit of knowledge. They debated theories. They shared ideas. They argued about what certain ancient texts meant. And through it all, they began to see each other not as enemies but as colleagues. New Haven was rebuilt. This time it was not just a human colony. It became a joint settlement where humans and Zelthari lived together. Human children played with young Zelthari in parks where flowers from Earth grew beside crystal gardens. Human scientists worked in laboratories alongside Zelthari researchers. Human farmers taught Zelthari about agriculture. Zelthari engineers showed humans advanced technology. Captain Torrance became the commander of a new exploration fleet. Instead of conquering other worlds, the fleet was sent to discover them, to study them, to understand them. James worked closely with Kale, who had become a leader in the new peaceful military structure. Together, they planned missions to explore regions of space that had never been charted before. Dr. Henry Morris opened a hospital where he trained both human and Zelthari doctors. The medical knowledge from the archive was combined with human experience to create treatments that neither species had imagined possible. Rebecca took over communications and created a translation system that allowed humans and Zelthari to communicate perfectly. Language was no longer a barrier. Eleanor became the director of the archive. She worked every single day cataloging and translating the ancient records. She discovered technologies that could clean polluted worlds. She found medical treatments for diseases that humans and Zelthari had thought were incurable. She located philosophical texts that made both species rethink their understanding of what life meant. But Eleanor also made sure that not all the knowledge was used immediately. Some things, she told Marcus, are more powerful when we take time to understand them. The founders left these records for a reason. They wanted us to grow into understanding them, not just use them without thinking. 1 year after the archive was opened, Marcus stood in the Great Hall with Eleanor, Lyria, Kale, and Shalora the Oracle. Around them, humans and Zelthari worked together peacefully. A human and a Zelthari scientist argued about a mathematical equation, their voices passionate but friendly. A human child sat with a young Zelthari, and they were reading a book together from their new shared library. In the distance, you could see the lights of the rebuilt city, human architecture mixed with Zelthari crystal towers. "You could go home now," Eleanor said to Marcus. "We have established peace. You could return to Earth and tell humanity about what happened here." Marcus looked at his friend and smiled. "I am home," he said simply. "Home is not just a place. It is where you belong. And I belong here. I belong helping these two peoples learn to live together." Lyria's crystalline form glowed with what Marcus had learned to recognize as happiness. "We are grateful, Marcus Reed. You have given us more than peace. You have given us hope." The oracle's ancient voice echoed through the chamber. "The founders sent one of their own to guide us," Shalora said. "And that descendant has taught us the most important lesson of all. That strength is not found in power or conquest. It is found in the capacity to inspire others to become better than they were." Outside, the twin suns of the Zelthari world set together, casting light of many colors across a civilization that had learned to dream again. Two species that had been enemies were now building a future together. And Marcus Reed, a human commander who had been a prisoner of war, had become something far greater. He had become a bridge between worlds, a symbol of what was possible when beings chose understanding over fear and growth over stagnation. The age of conquest was over. The age of discovery had begun.